From Washington, D.C., we're joined by Alon Eyre, who's a distinguished diplomatic fellow at the Middle East Institute and a former senior diplomat on the U.S. negotiating team for the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. And joining us from Tel Aviv is Alon Pinkas, who's a former Israeli ambassador and consul general in New York and columnist at the New Republic. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Alon, let's start with you. Is it possible at this stage to judge whether this deal, which President Trump says could still be signed within hours despite Israel's attacks on Beirut, is a meaningful breakthrough, diplomatic breakthrough, or are we all getting ahead of ourselves right now?
No, it would in fact be if it happens, and we seem to be approaching it asymptotically. But if it does happen, it would be a significant breakthrough because it allows for the possibility of negotiations on Iran's nuclear program, and because it will move toward increasing the volume of maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. So if it happens, it's significant, but let's not look light at the remaining obstacles, even if it does happen. The hard work just starts if we get an agreement.
Alon Pinkas, Donald Trump has publicly rebuked Israel over its latest attack on Beirut. When was the last time that Israel found itself so visibly out of step with a U.S. president?
You'd have to go 30, 40 years back. I mean, yeah, there were crises during the Ford administration in 1975, the George H.W. Bush administration in 1991 under Secretary of State James Baker. There were a lot of there were a lot of spats, but nothing like this. And this is not a natural sequence. This is not a natural evolution. This has to do, Adrian, with the fact that Trump, while not admitting it publicly because that would make him look weak and gullible, Trump is livid. Trump is livid, angry, disillusioned, and disappointed with what Netanyahu sold him as those flawed premises going into the war. Obviously, the responsibility lays with Trump, but he is upset. The regime has not been toppled. There was no popular uprising. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps was not demolished. Iran's missile capability has not been destroyed, and their nuclear program, well, at least the unaccounted for 440 kilos of highly enriched uranium are still out there, on top of which they shut down the Strait of Hormuz and attacked the Arab Gulf. All of this runs diametrically contrary to what Mr. Netanyahu told Trump in mid-February would happen. So what you see now, this lashing out, is because Trump is not only livid with the entire war, but has finally acknowledged or recognized the fact that Netanyahu is trying to undermine it.
Okay. Alon Eyre, in Washington, you were involved, as we said in the introduction, in negotiating the JCPOA. What are the first things that you will be looking for when the details of this memorandum of understanding finally emerge?
Well, I mean, if we do see a text, and I hope we will, I'll be looking to see one or two things. One is, what does it say about Iranian management of the Strait of Hormuz? We saw a leaked version by Iranian media that said it would be open under Iranian arrangements. So if, in fact, ships have to go through the new traffic separation scheme that Iran imposed, which is through Iranian coastal waters as opposed to the old one, which is through Omani coastal waters, that'll be significant. And also the disposition of the highly enriched uranium. I think people tend to over-focus on the highly enriched uranium because if you're worried about an Iranian nuclear bomb, they know how to enrich. They can build centrifuges. So yes, this gives them a short-term ability to sprint toward a nuclear weapon. But even if we get rid of the HEU, the highly enriched uranium, they've got low enriched uranium, and they've got centrifuges. So again, if he's lucky enough to get a deal, President Trump, it will have the same contours of the Obama deal, which is Iran accepts restrictions on its nuclear program in exchange for money, and the secret sauce of any deal is going to be hard, vigorous, and rigorous inspection by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA.
Alon, in Tel Aviv, has this war left Israel more secure, less secure, or simply facing a different set of threats and problems than it did before?
Well, it may be slightly premature to assess whether it's less secure or more secure. This has to do with geopolitical dynamics. But I'll tell you this, Adrian. Iran of mid-June 2026 is exponentially stronger geopolitically and more emboldened than Iran of February 28 to 26, the day the war started. Iran has upended the strategic equation. Iran has attacked the Arab Gulf states, and Iran drove a wedge between Israel and the U.S., and that is not, or these are not things that we should take lightly. All that being said and done, you know, it remains to be seen what kind of relationship, what kind of power balance is going to develop between Israel and Iran. But it's certainly, Adrian, going to be different and less advantageous to Israel than the one that existed in February.
Alan, Eyre in Washington, Israeli officials are already warning that this could become another bad deal. Could anyone credibly make that argument before actually seeing the memorandum of understanding itself? And one of the criticisms of the original JCPOA was that it delayed rather than completely dismantled Iran's nuclear capabilities. So what lessons from 2015 will US negotiators be looking not to repeat this time round?
Well, I think this current U.S. administration really does not look to history to provide, to learn any lessons. It just wants to say it got a better deal than Obama. I think that's highly unlikely because the two key facts are Iran has discovered a new form of strategic deterrence that it can both weaponize and monetize. That's control of the Strait of Hormuz, which it can do relatively easily with rockets and drones. And also, the U.S. has lost significant strategic deterrence because it and Israel took out their big guns, literally and figuratively, and struck Iran repeatedly twice in the last year, and it wasn't enough for Iran to recalibrate its red lines. It's also put in place a more militarized, a more hardline Iranian leadership that, as the ambassador said, is more willing to take risks. So it is theoretically possible that the Trump administration will engage in serious, sustained negotiations and come up with a nuclear agreement that is, in fact, better than the JCPOA. I think that highly unlikely.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed. Alan Eyre in Washington, D.C. and Alon Pinkas in Tel Aviv.